So at first, I was gonna do this Pokenalysis on Mienfoo, but then I thought, you know what, screw it, I want to do it on something I want to do, because some people requested Mienfoo, but it's like, I got everything I needed, but I want to do Snubbull. So, I'm gonna do Snubbull! For Snubbull, its weaknesses are Steel and Poison, with some very useful resistances, and Dark Fighting and Bug. I really like the Dark Fighting resistance since it's so common, but also the Bug resistance because it takes care of stuff like U-Turn. And with an immunity to Dragon. I never quite understood that immunity to Dragon thing. I mean, I guess Nintendo just threw it on there because they thought dragons were too overpowered, which they kinda are. They did run rampant in OU last generation. So now the Dragon immunity is kinda nice, but I think they could have gotten away with just having it be a resistance. Either way it works, so whatever. With the ability Intimidate, Run Away, and Rattled. Intimidate can lower your opponent's attack, and Rattled, which I really like, can raise your speed by a stage if it gets hit with a Ghost, Bug, or Dark-type move. And looking at these stats, they're not great. Its defense and special defense are kind of subpar, and the HP is it's decent. But the major stat it's got is its attack stat. Its HP, or not its HP, sorry, its speed is pretty bad, but its attack stat is really good for Little Cup, so it capitalizes on that. Which actually brings us to this first common set, which is a Violate with Intimidate and an Adamant Nature, EV spread of 196 attack, 116 defense, and 196 special defense, with a moveset of Play Rough, Thunder Wave, Earthquake, and Close Combat. Now, there's something interesting about this set. It reaches 18 attack, and its defense and special defense both reach 13, which is kind of a weird number for Little Cup, because then it gives you 19 defenses, when 18 defenses will pretty much do the same thing. I say pretty much because there's always some, like, deviations between it, but otherwise, like, the 1 point difference sometimes just doesn't make a difference. And there are other times where it's just like, screw it, go ahead and put it in defense, it needs that everything it can get. But anyway, the whole point of this set is to be a bulky attacker, and to paralyze things. So that way it can come in, get off the T-Wave, outspeed them the next turn, and then knock it out with one of its great coverage moves. However, I always thought this set, like I said, I thought this set was kind of weird because, you know, it has the 13 defense and special defense, and it doesn't exactly help against knockoff users, especially with that Intimidate. You bring it in on a Pawniard, and that thing's gonna get a Defiant boost. So I took it upon myself to make a couple sets on it. And the first custom set I have for you is kind of like that. This isn't it's a defensive set, but in no way should it be used against Pawniard. With a Violate, Impish Nature, Intimidate, with an EV spread of 196 HP, 196 defense, and 116 special defense. As opposed to 196 special defense, this will still allow you to get 12 special defense while capitalizing in your defense and HP. With Rest, Heal Bell, Sleep Talk, and Play Rough. Play Rough is a stab, Rest and Sleep Talk and Heal Bell make it a perfect support set. What I really like about this set is nothing is immune to Play Rough, and it has some decent attack power, so you can still get off some good damage with its stab. And moving on to my favorite custom set that's really starting to catch on around Little Cup is my Rattled set, with a Violate, Rattled, Adamant or Jolly Nature, with 196 attack and speed, and 36 HP, defense, and special defense. Now, the way these EVs work is you'll end up with, I think around 22 HP, or it might be 21. I can't remember right off the top of my head. 18 attack, 12 defense, 11 special defense, which is okay, it's not really supposed to be specially defensive, and 12 or 13 speed. Now you may be wondering, why the hell does speed matter? It's because we're going to take advantage of Rattled. I'll explain more on that after the moveset. With Play Rough, Earthquake, and the third and fourth move slots being any of these two. Really any two will work depending on what you want to do. Crunch, Close Combat, or Thunder Wave. Now the personal set I run is an Adamant Nature with Play Rough, Earthquake, Close Combat, and Thunder Wave. And the reason I run that is because I don't want it to be solely for knockoff Rattled. Because if it was solely for knockoff Rattled, it wouldn't serve much purpose other than that, right? So, why not give it Thunder Wave as well, so that way it can double as a bulky attacker. Not quite as bulky as the other Snubbull, but still bulky enough. Now, if you decide you wanted to go with Crunch instead as a coverage move, you could do that. But I really recommend you keep Play Rough and Earthquake. I think those are the two main stab and coverage moves you're going to need. Otherwise, the other two are just, you're free to choose. And something I want to point out before we move on to the checks and counters. The reason this is an Adamant or Jolly set is because Adamant you can get off some more damage, but if you go Jolly, then you can speed tie with Mischievous after the Rattled boost. Otherwise, you hit 18 speed with the Adamant Nature. Which, again, isn't bad, but Snubbull isn't really made for speed. That's also another reason why I wanted to have Thunder Wave on this set. But let's move on to the checks and counters. Checks and counters, the biggest check to Snubbull is probably the thing that Snubbull can come in on the most, and that is Pawniard. The reason why I say this is because one Iron Head, that's it, Snubbull's gone. Doesn't matter if you're running defensive Snubbull or not, Iron Head from Pawniard, you are gone. And it's always a risk trying to bring in Snubbull when it goes for knockoff. Sure, they may go for knockoff and just continue with the plan, think you're physically defensive, and, you know, be like, oh, I'll get the attack boost with my Defiant. And that's great, that's what my custom Snubbull set was built for. However, if you're running a defensive set or just the regular Snubbull set, Pawniard is a huge, huge counter. And you need to watch out for Iron Head. Next up, we have Coughing. Or should I say, Coughing! With its poison typing, is going to resist any kind of stab Snubbull has. And it's at least neutral and resists all of its coverage moves. Not to mention, it can burn it. Another check to Snubbull is probably Ghastly. With Ghastly being part poison type, it can come in on Snubbull's play roughs. It doesn't want to, it doesn't like to, but it can. And sure, while if you've got your speed boost, you can go for Crunch and knock it out with my custom set. However, if it is Scarfed, it will knock you out with one Sludge Wave. Again, doesn't matter if you're a defensive set, it will knock you out. And finally, kind of an oddball check is Larvesta. And I found this one really weird, but when I really got to think about it, it made sense. Because if you look at Larvesta, it resists its stab, it's neutral or resists all of Granbull's coverage moves, plus it can hit it up with a Will-O-Wisp, or can burn Snubbull with its Flame Body ability, and then proceed to just recover off the damage of the Morning Sun. So it's a really weird check that I didn't consider before, but it kind of works. But let's move on to teammates. Teammates include Steel types, such as Bronzor. Steel types such as Bronzor are going to resist both of Snubbull's weaknesses, and if you're running the physically defensive Snubbull set, a specially defensive Bronzor might be a very good complement to go with it. Another teammate to consider is Skrelp. Obviously you can go with Tentacle since they share a typing, but Skrelp's Water Poison type, again, allows it to resist both of Snubbull's weaknesses, and again, like the other ones, how Tentacle and Skrelp can be specially defensive can complement Snubbull's physical defensive side, and that can work out pretty well. Another good teammate is Barboach. Yes, again, it resists Snubbull's weaknesses, but I find Barboach is a pretty good teammate to go with Snubbull because while it resists Snubbull's weaknesses, it only has one weakness itself, which is Grass. Which Snubbull, sure, it takes neutrally, but at least it's not weak to. So I think that it can cover Snubbull pretty well, and Snubbull doesn't have to cover it in return. And the final teammate I could come up with is Dino. Now you may be wondering, how does Dino cover Snubbull? It doesn't really, but Snubbull covers Dino really well. It takes care of its fighting, bug, and dragon weaknesses all at once. So you can safely switch out Dino into Snubbull, and since those typings are mostly physical, Snubbull can get the Intimidate drop on them and take the advantage back from your opponent. But that's it for this Pokenalysis. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. I'm sorry if I stuttered too much. I've been recording for a while today, and my mouth is just a little tongue-tied. But yeah, that's it from me. I will see you guys next time.